Um, so I'm just going to talk about a pretty random project that I did. It's not finished by any means, but just a couple of day project that I did a couple of months ago. So I'm curious, has anyone heard of the board game? And I'll give this. We'll just hand this off to the next person. Has anyone heard of the board game Talisman? Talisman? Anyone? Yeah, I hadn't either. So a couple of friends pinged me on IRC. Does anyone use IRC anymore? Am I just old? Okay, about half-ish, a little more than half. Great. I just make sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. So just a couple of friends that I've just played a few games with over the years pinged me to play this game called Talisman. It's a board game, but they made a digital edition. It's on Steam. It's called Talisman Digital Edition. It's like $15. I actually got off of Humble Bundle. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, and I got it for like $2, really cheap. But it's not cheap right now. But maybe again. So anyway, it's like a fantasy-based board game, and I've got a couple of screenshots here to kind of explain the basics of what it is, because it's relevant to the project that I was working on. Okay, so you've got, let's see if there's a good way to show this. Aha. Okay, so you've got a board. It looks basically like it's just going to go through them. Great.
Just do full screen.
Full screen. Okay. I just paused it. Okay. You've got 4 players max, and they've got classes like in a fantasy game. Like there's an ogre chief, a leprechaun, and a necromancer playing this game, and they each have their own unique skills and abilities. You've got a dice that gets rolled for various things, and then you've got each character has some attributes. Like here, it goes strength. I can't remember what this one is. Strength and what do they call it? It's basically like mana. It's how powerful of magic user you are. Your health or your lives, they call it, and your fate and your gold. And so as you roll the dice, you basically get to land on different spots and things happen, like events. Depending on where you land, there's different things that can happen, and it's all card-based. So you land somewhere, generally you pop a card off of the deck, and it contains some event or a monster or something like that. So we were playing this a couple of nights, and it's pretty fun. I spent a lot of time in IRC, and I was kind of thinking it would be neat to implement this. It's not the same game, but use this as a basis for an IRC-based game. So here's an example of like an enemy you'll encounter. They have strength, and then when you kill them, if you kill a strength-based monster, your strength increases. If you kill a spell-based monster, your spell power increases. And then fate, you can use a fate point to re-roll. And then, so if you lose a fight, you can use a fate point, re-roll. And then if you win your fight, you defeat the monster. If you die, you lose one of your lives. So this is just an example of one of the special abilities of the concept. So anyway, that's basic Talisman in 5 minutes. So I had spent a lot of time on IRC. I've used IRC bots before. If you don't know, IRC bots are just like, they're actually IRC clients that hang out in your chat room on IRC. IRC is just a text-based chat. And they hang out And when something is said, they parse it, and they can do various things. So a lot of people use bots for like making jokes, like to record funny things that happen in the channel, and then they can replay the quotes or things like that. If you go to a channel for like Go or the C language or several other things like that, there are bots that will actually compile code and print out the output. They're just automated chat clients, basically. So I hadn't done anything in Go, so I went poking around for Go IRC libraries, and there's a pretty nice one in the form of Go IRC, done by this guy here, Fluffle. It's fairly popular. And this is what I use. So it implements the IRC spec, so I didn't have to go in and actually form up my TCP packets and everything to do to communicate. That's all done for you. It sets up the basics for you to plug in your own handler, so that when something happens, you can handle it in the way you want to, while all of the lower level stuff, this IRC framework, is operating under the covers. So I created this game, and I called it GoGark. It's a mix of like Go and game and IRC. And it sounds kind of fantasy, so fantasy-y. So that's what I think that's for. Anyway, the basics, I'll just do a very quick tour of the code, and then I'll do a demo. One of the things I wanted to do, just from a design perspective, is abstract the IRC stuff away from the actual game engine. So this GoGark IRC Go is the main package. I'll go in there. It imports the Go IRC client and uses it, and then calls into the game. So really, you could use the game from any sort of messaging platform you wanted to. In theory, I've only done it with IRC, but so the interesting parts here. Here's our main function. A lot of this is just boilerplate that I grabbed from a sample on the Go IRC docs. The interesting part, I guess, is right here. Let's actually start a new game and tell this IRC connection that I want it to handle in the background. The BG is background, so handle in the background messages that are for my bot, basically. So private messages in IRC it's kind of a confusing name because they're just public messages that are for your user. So basically saying if anyone addresses, actually it's not even for the user, for the channel. So if anyone addresses the channel, it'll parse the chat room channel is what they call it in IRC. It'll parse whatever's said in the channel and figure out what to do. And so what the bot does is check to see if if the message is prefixed with a dot, and then it tries to parse that into a command, and then do something based on that command. So the rest of this is mostly just boilerplate. So now go into the actual game engine library. I've never programmed a game before, so this was all new to me. I'm sure there's lots of better ways to do things than I did, yeah. So I just don't want anyone thinking this is the way you have to program an IRC game. But so I created this dispatcher, and this is kind of how you interact with the game from an outside library. So for example, the IRC package the Go IRC, the main package, it sends its commands down to this dispatcher through this send method. And that operates with the entire rest of the game. So that's how I kind of created that abstraction between the game engine and the front end, I guess. So it's got to send it checks in this registry to see if the command that it read is a valid command. If it can't find it in the registry, it just prints out to the channel unknown command. So pretty simple. Kind of the key thing here is, since this is a turn-based game, it allowed me to save a lot of complexity in terms of managing state and locking state. So I just have this big lock right here in the game. I lock the state of the game, I handle that command, and then I unlock the state of the game. So that makes it a lot more simple than trying to manage concurrent access to the game at the same time. Okay, so let's see. So dispatch then calls into one of these handlers based on what you're doing. So these are the handlers I have implemented. Basically, these are the commands you can do in the game. And it's very rudimentary at this point. This is like I said, about a 2-day effort. You can join the game, start the game, check your stats, travel, and attack. So instead of like having a map and trying to display a map in a text-based environment, basically you just travel and you end up at some spot. And it just allowed for a huge simplification. So it just basically got rid of the board. So yeah, that's about it. And then I guess I'll just go into one of these. Attack, I guess, is probably the most interesting. And you'll see the handler gets an object that represents the game. And that's where all of the state of the game is. As it gets bigger, there'll probably be abstractions and modularizations, I guess. But for now, you just pass around the game. And then it does different things, like checks to see if this player has moved this turn, because you only get one attack per turn, things like that. It just checks to make sure the world's good, rolls a dice for your attack, checks the enemy's attack. Actually, the enemy just has a static like strength or spell power, and you just have to roll above that. If you roll above it, you win, and then you increment whichever your strength or your spell power based on what kind of attack it was. Which probably makes more sense if you played Talisman, but that's the basics. So, and if you die, it handles that, and then takes you out of the state machine of going through each of the users, and you can watch everyone else play. So, quick demo. So I am going to start Gogark here. He'll actually go out to IRC, connect to a server, and join a chat room. You can see here some of the flags. Chat by default is going to join this server or this channel. And then I'm just going to start 2 regular IRC clients. There's lots of them out there. Merc, Perch are popular. IRSSI is popular in, I call it IRC, I don't know what the correct pronunciation is. Popular on Linux.
That's what I call it, so that's
Okay,
correct.
great. So I'll just start 2 clients. So this would be like your normal joining a chat room to chat to people about some topic. So I'm just going to join. And then I'm going to join the room Gogark where the bot is. And then I'm going to do it again with this guy. Oops. Did something wrong. Oh, I corrected this. Should have copied and pasted. All right. Okay. So I'm in this chat room now. You can see there's 3 users: Gogark, which is the bot, Alice and Bob, and now. I'm going to switch between these tabs, but you can see who I'm playing as down here at the bottom. There's my name. So Alice is going to try to start the game. You need at least 2 players to play, 0 is not enough. So Alice joins, Bob joins, and then you can check your stats. So everyone right now, there's no classes or any of the cool stuff, just everyone starts with the same stats: health, luck, vigor, and wits. So vigor is like strength in the talisman game. Wits is like your spell casting ability. So they both joined, and I switched over to Bob, and he sees all of this happening too. This is a public channel, so all of these messages he sees. Bob will start the game. So the game's begun. It randomizes the order, just the fact that alphabetical is just a coincidence. And now people can start playing. So really the only command right now is travel. And, oh, it's not your turn, Bob. So travel. And all that happens is encounters. So the game could be a lot cooler if you added like events and different things, but currently it's just traveling and encounters. So, and there's no spells at all yet. So, and it picks a random monster, and I'll show you how it does that later. But, and it tells you what that enemy's attack score is. So that's that static score that I was talking about. And now Alice has to attack, and this is a pretty tough opponent. So when you attack, it rolls a 1d6 and adds in your vigor, since this is a vigor-based monster. You encounter a demon that challenges your vigor. So you attack, yeah, pretty tough, so he lost. And he just goes back, now it's Bob's turn. He'll do the same thing. If Alice runs stats, you'll see that she lost a health point. And then currently that's about all there is to it, and eventually somebody dies and the game's over. So I have this out on my GitHub. For the enemies, the friends that I mostly play this kind of stuff with, they're not developers, so I wanted to make an easy way for people to add their own content to the game. So currently, there's just this JSON file where you specify your enemies, and it'll load these all when the program runs, and it'll just load them into memory. It'll get more tricky as I want to start adding like special abilities. Like I'm not quite sure how to handle that yet, because like different monsters might have different abilities that can do different things. What else? Anything else interesting? Oh, I haven't worked on this for about 2 months, 3 months almost. I do have several issues. Like if anyone here is wanting to get involved in Go and like the idea of an IRC game, I've got a bunch of help wanted tasks that I thought would be neat to add. So, I mean, yeah. Anything like add simple events when traveling. Yeah. So events is an alternative to an enemy encounter, things like that. So, and an example of what that might look like. So all players gain +1 luck, things like that. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah. Derek.
Do you always make your packages that fine-grained?
I'm learning not to. I think it's kind of a bad habit and not too idiomatic in GoLand. I don't know why I do that. I've actually been thinking about that recently. I kind of like it modularized. I come from in terms of like modern languages, I program mostly in Python, and I don't know if I picked it up from there, but I have noticed that a lot of the idiomatic people talking about writing idiomatic Go will say to put more files in a package. So it's just something that I do. I don't recommend it by any means.
So can you further, I don't know exactly what we're talking about as the problem or solution. So I see that you have a lot of folders. Is that what
Yeah, so in Go, each subfolder will basically represent its own package.
Okay.
So for example, when I go into command here,
But you only have one file per folder.
right,
so you
see,
can-
I'm in a package command. So this is a great example. So here, what I should have done is I should have had, sorry, actually that's not the example I was thinking of. Here, handlers. I probably just should have had a single handlers package and then thrown all my files in here instead of having each handler be its own package,
Right,
which
okay.
kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. So yeah, I think that would have been a better approach.
And packages do namespacing essentially.
Right.
So you would say handler,
Oh,
handler
right.
dot
Yeah. So,
attack, handler dot.
so that was the other thing I was going to show is that now in the registry were those? No.
So I noticed in one of them you had, it was either underscores or dashes as prefixes to the import. I know very little about Go.
Oh, underscores. Yeah, and that's actually what I was looking for. Let me find.
It's
Make
imported just for a side effect because it enforces you have to use it. You can
Right.
Import it.
So the fact that I have each of those in their own package means that I only have to import all of them instead of just being able to import all handlers in one line. Like if I just had stuck everything in a handlers package, I could have just imported that, and I would have gotten all of the handlers that are in individual files within that same package.
I'm sorry, I missed, what is the underscore?
So, right, the underscore is just, I think someone said it, but importing just for the side effect of importing. So,
Why do you need that side effect?
yeah, and so in this case, let me switch back to attack. Oops. Handlers, attack. It's always, or at least almost always, when you have an init function, the init runs at import time.
Okay.
So what I'm saying here is when I import this package, I want it to register itself with my command registry. So those underscores are just saying I'm not gonna index into any of these packages and use any of the methods or functions or types or anything that are defined there. I just want this init to run.
Right.
So that's
And
yeah,
then
great questions.
the prefix there, like HR, is an alias instead of using the default package name?
Yep, exactly. So if you have a long package name like handler registry or something, you can alias it.
Or if you had 10 different clients that all had an IRC package?
Yeah.
Okay.
On that underscore import to init, is that a pattern you use often and or would recommend?
It's used in like database drivers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only place I
That kind
use
of
it
stuff.
anywhere is importing.
The image package does that. You import JPEG and it self-registers it, so you just decode the file and it recognizes it because it registered.
Yeah, you see it around. It's not super common, but you just see it around.
So it's mostly used for middleware systems, not for other things?
It's used when you have a package, you want the code to be compiled, but you're not gonna, Go doesn't let you have a package that you don't ever use in the file. That's an error, and so the underscore is the way to get around
Yeah, it's just
the
the
thing not being used.
It's never referenced. You never like directly import it and use it because it's the init is initializing it into like a list of handlers that then you later go through dynamically. And
Yeah.
so if that, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's middleware system.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Cool. Anything else? I guess not.
Get off the stage, Brian.
Yeah, taking way too long. So what was next?